I was talking with someone recently about how they usually celebrate Christmas and what their plans were for this year. And he mentioned that there was a lot of drama in the family, a lot of tension, a lot of strained relationships. And in order to avoid the struggles and those difficulties, his mom sent a message to their immediate family and said, "Let's just keep this our own little Christmas this year." And I was really struck by that phrase, our own little Christmas. Because everything about this celebration and everything about the event of the original Christmas is that this is not meant for us, that it is for everyone. It is to be shared with everyone. There is something about Christmas that reminds us that something from outside of this world comes into this world. It's a moment where glorious angels collide with smelly shepherds. It is a moment where we are reminded that something extraordinary is here, something beyond what is normal and routine and mundane. There is nothing secret about what happens here. And our readings really point us to this reality. Isaiah says in our first reading this morning, "The Lord has bared his holy arm in the sight of all the nations. All the ends of the earth will behold the salvation of our God." It is clear that God intends this message to reach everyone, to be spread to all the corners of the world. And God has accomplished this mission and continues to accomplish this mission through men and women who are faithful to him. Yesterday at our Vigil Mass at the 4 o'clock, we read the genealogy from St. Matthew. I could tell that everyone was hoping I would choose the short version. But I disappointed them and read the long version. And it's a beautiful litany of names, of people who have said yes, who have responded to what God wanted to do through them. You know, and if one of them had said no, if Hezekiah had said no to being the father of Manasseh, it would have ended the lineage between David and Jesus. And the promise that God had foretold that he would establish this Davidic king would not have come to fruition in the person of Christ. All of them said yes in some way to cooperate with the work that God had begun in them. And in the church, we see this again and again, men and women whom God raises up to be outstanding in holiness, to be models for all of us, to continue this mission of announcing the salvation that has been won for us. And not all of these men and women were perfect. In fact, only Mary and Jesus were perfect. They had their own struggles, they had their own mess that they dealt with, their own weakness, their own brokenness. But they gave enough. They gave enough so that God could accomplish his work through them. And so for any of us to say that this is just our own little Christmas goes against the event of the birth of Christ. Because God took on flesh for everyone. God took on flesh for those who resist him. God took on flesh for those who neglect him. God took on flesh for those who hate him. God took on flesh for those who completely ignore him. God took on flesh for those who rejoice this morning at the announcement that the Savior has been born. God took on flesh for everyone. It doesn't matter how they responded initially. God takes on flesh for all of us. So that for those who are in turmoil, those who are in sin, those who are in darkness, those who find themselves locked up in the prison of their own isolation, that God has come for everyone. And who are we Who are we to deny those around us this announcement? Who are we because we are afraid of creating conflict? Who are we because we are afraid of meddling in tension? Who are we because we are afraid of taking on the task of seeking reconciliation with our brothers and sisters? Who are we to deny our brothers and sisters this announcement that God has come to bring salvation for everyone? Who are we to deny our brothers and sisters this good news that God came as a tiny child to deliver to us? Christmas calls us out of our place of comfort into a dirty stable in Bethlehem, where there are people from foreign lands and shepherds who smell like the sheep they guide. God calls us out of our place of comfort to this place of discomfort, to this unknown and unfamiliar place where there is something new for us to discover. We're called to go there because that's where God has come for us. God comes into our mess, into our dysfunction, and how much we need him to come. The healer comes to the sick, to the place where they are sick, not to the place where he expects them to meet him once they've been healed. He goes where they are sick. The Redeemer goes to those who are locked in the captivity of sin, not to the place where he expects them to meet him once they've figured a way to get out. He goes into the prison to set them free. The light of the world goes into the darkness and the death of sin. He doesn't wait for us to meet him on the other side once we've kind of pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps and fixed all of our problems. He goes into the darkness. Friends, this is the amazing announcement of Christmas. God isn't waiting for us someplace else. He's here. He has entered here. He goes into our woundedness, into our brokenness, into our sinfulness, into our darkness, and he says, "Come with me to a better place. Come with me where there is the fullness of life, where light shines and pierces all the darkness." This is the power of God. This is the announcement of Christmas. But the next step is up to us. God meets us where we are, not so that we can stay where we are, but so that we can go where he is. One of the readings for Christmas that we heard this morning gives us that beautiful line. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings glad tidings. We have to bring glad tidings to all those who need to know of the presence of God. And I say we have to do that because it's for our own good. Going out is our only way to discover more fully who God is and who we are. Christmas is not a time to lock ourselves in our own homes with our own families who see things only in the way that we see them. Christmas is a time for us to go out to an undiscovered place, to a place where God desires to show us something new. Do you think that any of the Jewish people were expecting this? Do you think that any of them expected that the creator of the universe would take on the flesh of a tiny, fragile child to save them from their sins? We have to open our eyes and be willing to be surprised by what God does for us. by the invitation that he extends to us. So today is not just a day for us to kind of cuddle up with a cute little baby Jesus in the manger. Today is a day for us to say to the world, he has come for us. He has come to meet us where we are and to save us from our sin. This is not our own little Christmas. This is a celebration for the world, and we are challenged to announce that he has come for all of us, to lead us into the light of his kingdom. So let's embrace that challenge and respond with joy to the presence of our Savior. Let's not deny to those who need him the presence of our God. Let's not deny to those in darkness the light who has come to set us free.